everyone? Audible? I'll only give you those questions in daily answer which students find difficult. Okay, है तो आसान, but generally which students find difficult. Why they find difficult? ये नहीं मालूम. How can Parsons AGI framework be used to analyze key problems in a society? Discuss. Now this is a 20-mark question. Okay. 20-mark question, यूपीएससी का ही क्वेश्चन है ऑफ कोर्स. 2018 यूपीएससी, सारे क्वेश्चन यूपीएससी के ही हैं जो अभी तक किए हैं. How can Parsons AGI framework be used to analyze key problems in a society? इसमें क्या 10 नहीं हो सकता? 3 हो सकता है. 12 minutes, but I'll give you only 10. Maximum 10 minutes. Okay. Maximum you should take 12 minutes, but I'll give you only 10 क्योंकि फिर हमें क्लास भी लेनी है. Think about structure. How will you start? Don't think कि 250 वर्ड्स भरने हैं मुझे, 4 पेज लिखने हैं. ऐसे टारगेट मत रखो. आंसर दो बस, चाहे 3 पेज भरे हैं 2. How can Parsons AGI framework be used to analyze key problems? Okay. So let's see क्या करना है इसमें. Very simple. Parsons AGI framework. Second is key problems. First, of course, we have to discuss what is AGI framework. I'll define A, I'll define G, I'll define I, I'll define L, and then I'll define why I defined them. What are these? These are needs of society. If needs are fulfilled, society survives. Equilibrium. Okay. इसी में मेरे को I think I will take, इसी में चल जाएंगे 100 words आराम से. Because I'll also give examples. I'll also discuss systems. Adaptive need कौन पूरी करता है? Economic system. ये सब भी बोलूंगा मैं. Organismic system जिसको बोलता है Talcott-Parsons. I'll discuss these things and then I'll say this is what structural functional paradigm was, as was developed in America by Talcott-Parsons in his book Social System in the year 1951. ठीक है, ऐसे करके बोल दिया. 100 वर्ड्स इसी में चले गए. अब क्वेश्चन क्या है, ये तो मैंने कर दिया डिस्क्राइब, अब ये रह गया की प्रॉब्लम्स. After discussing AGIL framework, structural functionalism, all those systems, all those nonsense things, I'll say Talcott Parsons believed that if society, this is what Talcott Parsons believed, that if society has all these systems catering to these different needs, then society is in equilibrium. However, अब यहां से प्रॉब्लम शुरू होती है however से. Okay. We also know this, that Talcott Parsons has explained some of the problems that may occur in the system, which he called as strain, factors causing strain. Okay, he has described those. He has discussed that there are some factors which can create problems, strain in the system. And this also explains, after all this discussion, I would explain factors causing strain, where I'll discuss D, P, 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 T. 5 factors. Okay. Now let us read the question again. How can AGIL framework be used to study or analyze key problems? And what I'm doing here, I'm discussing strain, factors causing strain in the AGIL. This DPBPT will create strain in AGIL. Okay. And AGIL will again, since the system has good adaptive capacity, high force of integration working because of generalized values, shared consensus. All of us have agreed, yes, democracy is the right way to live. Okay. There will be no more conflict, equal opportunities for everyone. No more caste defining your occupation. No more religion defining your education. No more extended family restricting your ability or choices. But you know, this is only one method to answer this question. Because I'm not explaining key problems. Remember this. I am again explaining AGIL. Notice kiya? This question is asked by a Marxist scholar to the student. Okay. How can you use AGIL framework to explain key problems? Marxist scholar is asking you question on Talcott Parsons, and you are again explaining AGIL. You have not answered question. You have not answered question. You have only explained equilibrium. So how to answer his question? Key problems in society. Tell me, what are the key problems in society? Unemployment is a key problem in our society, Indian society. Poverty is a key problem. पूरा GS social issues जो है paper 1 is key problem in whole UPSC. Okay. So let me write some of the key problems. तब आपको पता चलेगा AGIL का काम क्या है अब यहाँ पर. Poverty, unemployment, crime against women, casteism, migration. Okay, especially migration which is forced in nature. एक तो वॉलेंटरी माइग्रेशन होता है, मेरे को दिल्ली जाना है, इसमें तो ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. एक होता है मजबूरी में जाना पड़ रहा है यहाँ की कंडीशन की वजह से. ओके, पुश फैक्टर्स. Reverse migration was a push factor. Basically it was a push factor migration, forced migration. Okay, and many other set of issues that we have in India. Poverty explains that adaptation is not working. Organismic system is not working properly. Unemployment explains organismic system is not working properly. Talcott Parson told me, what is the function of organismic system? Economy, survival, adaptation, and maintenance of the system, producing and distributing goods and resources so that society is maintained. But I can see नहीं हो रहा है. Goods and resources produce हो भी रहे हैं तो distribute नहीं हो रहे. तो unemployment नहीं तो फिर कहां से आएगी? So unemployment and poverty explains failure of organismic system. क्योंकि ये बढ़ते जा रहा है. Unemployment rate is rising like anything. It is not a normal social fact now. It has become pathological. Unemployment is normal, but when rate of unemployment exceeds like anything की newspaper की headline बन जाए वो. So it is pathological social fact. Crime against women. Crime against women. If laws are working efficiently, if you have proper judiciary system, if you have proper police, army, court, state, parliament system, and efficient policy makers, then how would you explain rising crime against women? If everything is working so perfectly, if laws function to integrate people, to minimize conflict, to ensure coordination, cooperation, and to foster solidarity, then how would you explain rising crime against women? Non-recognition of marital rape, domestic violence. These are the key problems. Talcott Parson का तो explain कर ही नहीं रहा है मुझे कुछ भी. Crime against women is failure of what? Personality system, social system, and even cultural system. Because in cultural system we have family, and within family we have domestic violence. That is also crime against women. नहीं explain कर रहा मुझे ये कुछ भी. Casteism. What is the meaning here? Casteism is a problem. Definitely it is a problem. And casteism operates in multiple fashions. You would not see casteism being running in an explicit fashion today. You would see casteism running in implicit fashion. Hidden form में है. Something that sociologist has to reveal. How casteism is operating today in a very new form, which we call as new caste system or new casteism. Old casteism has gone, but new casteism has come. Okay. Casteism explains me that we as Indian society have not really internalized values of pattern variable B. Achievement status, we are still going with ascriptive features. Okay, that shows generalization of values, integration, all those things cannot happen if values are not shared equally. If despite having modern education, if people still believe in caste system. Okay, this shows Talcott Parson cannot explain me, AGIL cannot explain me these things. Okay, because according to Talcott Parson, system is running efficiently because we have all the organs. But when it comes to Indian society, It cannot explain. Even in American society, it cannot explain. I'll tell you why. Sir, can we explain key problems using cybernetic framework and then can relate to key problems like with rapid increase in energy like industrialization led to my हाँ कर सकते हो कर सकते हो. There are many methods to right answer. Okay. Migration, exodus, mass migration, reverse migration. Again, it shows failure of organismic system, not able to provide enough employment or generate resources at local level. इसलिए people have to migrate. Economic system is not working efficiently. Okay. If so many people every day are contracting coronavirus, okay, this shows healthcare system is not working properly, or we do not have adequate health measures or proper vaccination. And to not have proper vaccination drive, awareness campaign, or enough infrastructure, medical infrastructure, if we do not have all these things, that shows failure of what? That shows failure of personality system, political level. Okay. It shows failure of laws. It shows also the failure of organismic system. Okay. So there are so many key problems which you can easily explain through AGIL. Okay. Can we talk about these are the critique to Parsons for not talking about? हाँ वो तो है ही. जेफरी अलेक्जेंडर यही बोलता है. Okay. See, fact is, when you talk about religion, what is religion? What is the function of religion to Talcott Parsons? Function of religion according to Talcott Parsons is to create value consensus, motivate individuals, and give them a tonic of self-confidence in crisis situation. Okay, जब भी आपको टेंशन होती है भगवान का नाम लेते हो. Okay. एग्जाम में डर लग रहा है, मार्क्स कैसे आएंगे? जय श्री राम बोला, दे दिया, देखा जाएगा. ठीक है. अरे बट if religion is so good, so functional, how will you explain hate speech every day, communal violence, which is also a result of religion, fundamentalism, sectarian conflict? If religion is so functional, how would you explain these conflicts that are taking place every day? Communal politics. Okay, so these are the key problems that Talcott Parsons AGIL cannot explain, and still it can be explained as failure of AGIL. So therefore I have used AGIL only to analyze key problems. Okay, sir, how we are explaining using Parsons as these were critique? अरे तो यही तो है critique. क्वेश्चन देखो ना तुम, क्वेश्चन क्या है? फिर तो तुम बोल दोगे क्वेश्चन बनाने वाला ही आदमी गलत है. क्वेश्चन क्या बोल रहे हैं? हाउ कैन पार्सन्स एजीएल फ्रेमवर्क बी यूज्ड टू एनालाइज की प्रॉब्लम्स? ओके, ये तो क्वेश्चन बनाया है जिसने, उसके दिमाग से सोचो. Talcott Parsons has explained problems, okay, but to him it is the equilibrium that is important, and he would consider these problems as temporary. For example, Talcott Parsons will say unemployment is rising, okay, no issue. Government will come up with policies to minimize unemployment. It will create employment opportunities. So again, he will talk about equilibrium, but he would not be talking about unemployment being an end in itself, in the sense it is not being checked, it is not being controlled. कब पॉलिसी ऐसी बनेगी जिससे ठीक हो जाएगा अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट? फिर ठीक क्यों नहीं हो रहा? अगर इतनी गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज आई हैं, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट इज नॉट बीइंग फिक्स्ड, इसको एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पा रहे. एंड दिस शोज फेलियर ऑफ systems, and that is how AGIL is used to explain key problems. ठीक है. So this is how you should have approached this question. ये तो बिल्कुल वैसा है, लॉजिकल है, ये मैथमेटिक्स की तरह है. फॉर्मूला आपको पता था, उस फॉर्मूले में आपको प्रॉब्लम देखनी थी, क्या इशू है फॉर्मूले में. you know Talcott Parsons once gave a remark in his book. It was not really given by Parsons, it was Brinton who gave this, but Parsons agreed to it. Parsons says, who now reads Spencer? Okay, Parsons says, अब Spencer को कौन पढ़ता है? It was actually said by Brinton, okay, not Parsons. Who now reads Spencer? जमाना गया स्पेंसर को पढ़ने का. Why is he saying like this? जबकि खुद भी evolution की बात कर रहा है. He himself is talking about evolution, still he is saying who now reads Spencer? Because remember the context in which he is writing after 1930s, when state had to intervene to fix economy. An intervention of state means it is no more laissez-faire. So now who now reads Spencer? Spencer has become irrelevant. Okay, because to fix the society, Organ had to intervene. Okay. But C. Wright Mills, who is a very huge critique to Parsons, he says, after criticizing him, who now reads Parsons? अब Parsons को कौन पढ़ेगा? ठीक है. Because it was a shift, it was a crisis in Western sociology. Sociologists had become alienated from functionalism and they had gotten inclined towards Marxism, specifically Frankfurt School Marxist, neo-Marxist scholars. Okay, they had become dominant. चलो अब शुरू करते हैं. रॉबर्ट मर्टन. And remember, when I analyze key problems, we could also have talked about some solutions, okay, as to what government is doing to fix these problems. You can and you must, in fact, always take side of government in such questions. When you are highlighting problems with Indian society, that is okay. You are sociologist, you have full right to do that. But then you also have to discuss some steps that government has taken to fix these issues. Like for example, when it comes to education, government has come up with new education policy. Okay, 2020. So whenever you are writing anything, okay, always think about measures that government has taken. Okay. Robert Merton. So Robert Merton, tomorrow, by the way, is last class on theories. Okay. And tomorrow onwards, we'll begin with next units. Fast पढ़ेंगे अब. Here I'm writing whatever Merton reviewed to explain deviance, why crime rate is increasing. Okay. Crime rate, see, crime is normal social fact, right? But excessive crime rate is pathological. But this does not explain why crime rate is rising. ओके, देयरफॉर मर्टन को आना पड़ा कि पैथोलॉजिकल चलो ठीक है, बट व्हाई crime rate is rising? Nobody is answering. So Merton had to review multiple theories. First, he reviewed psychological theory. Psychological theory of deviance. Okay. Here I will write predecessors. Predecessors. यानी कि मर्टन से पहले लोगों ने क्या बोला डेवियंस पर? Predecessors to Merton's deviance typology. First was psychological theory of deviance. Second was biological theory of deviance. Third, Marxist theory of deviance. Fourth, interactionist theory. ये भी बताता हूं मैं. Interactionist theory of deviance. Interactionist theory of deviance. Fifth, differential association theory. Differential association theory. Differential association theory. Five review, one more theory. Sixth, structural functional theory. Structural functional theory. He reviewed 6 theories on deviance, and then he came up with his theory. Okay. Let me ask you a very simple question. You will understand each one of them. Okay. First, let me ask you a very basic question. Very basic question. Okay. Why crime happens? Simple question. Tell me. What is the reason for crime in society? Poverty. हाँ. ठीक है. Inequality. Greed. ठीक है. और multiple factor. Survival. Unemployment. ठीक है. अब ये होती है कॉमन सेंस. इसको कॉमन सेंस कहते हैं. ठीक है. नॉन अडेरेंस टू लॉज. बिल्कुल, ये सब कॉमन सेंस है. सोशियोलॉजी नहीं है ये. ठीक है. अभी ये जानना जरूरी था ताकि मैं बता सकूं हाउ सोशियोलॉजी इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम कॉमन सेंस. ठीक है. बेसिकली जो भी हमने पढ़ा है, यू कैन राइट एनीथिंग फ्रॉम दैट इन दैट क्वेश्चन ऑन सोशियोलॉजी वर्सेस कॉमन सेंस. जितनी थ्योरी हमने पढ़ी वो सब कॉमन सेंस से अलग है. What Merton says and how he is different from common sense, I'll explain. Psychological theory first. You remember very well psychological theory of deviance. I don't need to explain anymore. Charles Horton Cooley, you know this. W.I. Thomas, you know this. Okay. Sigmund Freud. If I asked this question to Sigmund Freud, why criminals in society? Sigmund Freud would have said, there are 3 traits in personality: id, ego, superego. The people who are criminals, they have highest id, impulsive. They do not have balance. Ego और super ego का जो proper balance होता है, they do not have it. This is how he would explain crime. Okay. Completely internal mind oriented एकदम individual के. Poverty unemployment की बात नहीं कर रहा वो. एकदम अंदर जा रहा है दिमाग के. Biological theory of deviance. शक्ल देख के आप बता दोगे कौन चोर है. ठीक है. There are some unique features, physiological features, appearance, facial appearance, with which you can easily recognize who is criminal or not. Lombroso. Marxist theory of deviance. Capitalism inherently has those values which encourage deviance. Okay. So capitalism is criminogenic because it fosters crime, encourage crime. Okay. Next is interactionist theory of deviance. What is this? This was given by Howard Becker. Howard Becker. Howard Becker. The name of his theory is labeling theory. Labeling theory. Okay, we call it interactionist theory of deviance, also called as labeling theory. Labeling, you label someone. Okay. All these extra theories that I'm teaching you will help you in unit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. वहां मैं कुछ एक्सप्लेन नहीं करूंगा, बस नाम बोलूंगा, थ्योरी का नाम बोलूंगा, स्कॉलर का नाम, और बोलूंगा पता है तुम्हें, फिर आगे चलो. एक एक मिनट में खत्म होगा, एक एक मिनट में यूनिट खत्म होंगे. ठीक है. Yesterday I watched one video by a very senior teacher here in Rajendra Nagar, and I got to know that he is finishing paper 1 in 45 lectures. Paper 1 in 45, 45th में तो आज मैं मर्टन पे हूं. So I was actually amazed. कैसे खत्म किया होगा, मैं ये सोच रहा हूं. $45 लेक्चर्स में पेपर 1 खत्म. टारगेट है 4.5 months का. फिर 4.5 months करोगे क्या, मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा. या तो वो उधर गड़बड़ है या इधर गड़बड़ है. हाँ, मैं तो नहीं कर रहा ट्राई. मैं नहीं कर रहा, मेरा नुकसान होएगा उससे. ठीक है. Anyhow, Howard Becker labeling theory. I label someone as criminal. I defined him as criminal. He becomes criminal. Very much inspired by psychological theory. Interactionist theory of deviance. Okay, but one more approach, one more aspect is there. You defined him as criminal. That does not mean he became criminal. Because someone else may not define him or label him as criminal. So who are you? What is crime in one place may not be crime in any other place. The same act may not be crime in another context. Today I murder someone. खून कर दिया किसी का. I'll be criminal, right? But now imagine, when I murdered someone, I had worn Indian Army uniform. The person who I murdered was Pakistani. Now I'm not criminal, I'm hero. So what is crime? Act तो वही है, कपड़े बदल दिए बस और आदमी बदल दिए, पर अब ये क्राइम नहीं है, ये हीरोइज्म है. इसको सेलिब्रेट करेंगे. यही कोई आदमी करेगा, उसको जेल भेज देंगे. तो स्टेट करेगा, स्टेट के पास लेजिटिमेट मोनोपोली है वायलेंस का, तुम नहीं करोगे. फंडामेंटल राइट तुम्हारे पास है, ये नहीं करना बस जो हमने किया. ठीक है. So what is crime in one place may not be crime in any other context. Interactionist theory of deviance. Okay, very close to microsociology. You interpret, understand from the perspective of actor in a specific historical socio-cultural context. How did actor define this thing as normal and how he did not as normal? Something like this, symbolic interactionist. Okay. The symbols of uniform actually legitimized and made it normal for that person to kill him, that yes, it is legitimate. Okay. So every theory is very much interlinked with each other. कोई clear cut boundary नहीं मिलेगी आपको. Next is differential association theory. Differential association theory is given by Sutherland. 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 Sutherland says differential association means if you are sitting, eating, lounging away your time with people who are criminals, then you will become criminal. But if you are sitting, eating, lounging away your time with people who are sophisticated, you will not become criminal. So it all depends on who you are associated with. Differential association. If you are associated with people like them, you will become like them. Differential association. So this explains crime. Okay, this is also one theory, very different from other ones. A new perspective. And last one is structural functional theory that Merton reviewed. What is structural functional theory of deviance? Structural functional theory of deviance tells me that when deviance happens, it is going to bring people together. First, it will create solidarity. When Nirbhaya happened, all India united against Nirbhaya. The people who were convicted, okay, against those people. When 9/11 happened, World Trade Center, whole world got united against terror, and we called it war against terror, war on terrorism. Okay, so when deviance happens, it brings cohesion, solidarity, integrates people. Second, deviance is also anticipation of morality in the future, and therefore deviance brings social change. Deviance also brings social change. It integrates people, it also brings social change. Okay, and therefore deviance is functional. Deviance is functional to the system. Okay, brings people together, also brings in social change. Acha. Again, none of these theories were able to answer the question that Merton had in his mind. The question was why crime rate is rising in USA in 1940s. Very specific question. 1940 के बाद से क्राइम रेट एकदम सडनली बढ़ क्यों रहे हैं? Very specific question. And then Merton says, finally, deviance is not because of this, not because of this, not because of this, not because of this. Deviance or anomy is rooted in social structure. This is what he says. Anomy is rooted in social structure. फर्स्ट पहले इतना लिख लो, मैं बताता हूं आगे. Anomy according to Merton is rooted ROOT, rooted in the social structure. Okay. And it is the product of disjunction between culturally defined goals and socially legitimate means. Product of disjunction between culturally defined goals and socially legitimate means. Okay. Now, keeping those lines in mind, whatever I told you yesterday, उसी को दोबारा बना रहा हूं एंड उसको निपटाते हैं जल्दी से. अब देखो, अडेप्टेशन आपको मालूम है, कल्चर डिफाइंड गोल, सोशल लेजिटिमेट मींस, कंफॉर्मिस्ट बस इनोवेटर्स, रिचुअलिस्ट, माइनस प्लस, रिट्रीटिस्ट, माइनस माइनस, रिबेलियन, प्लस माइनस, conformists are those people who are not deviants. Conformists are those people who are not deviants because they have conformed to goals, they accept those goals, and they have proper means to fulfill those goals. So they are not deviants. That is only one type of group present in society. Okay. So although the name of the typology is deviance typology, but conformists are not deviant. Because what is the definition of deviance? How deviance comes into existence? When you have mismatch between CDG, SLM, then deviance. But here there is no mismatch. So conformists are not deviant. Okay. So if I go with definition mismatch between CDG, SLM, I will find only two people deviants. Only two. ठीक है, इसको ध्यान रखना है, बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है ये. Innovators are deviants. Ritualists are deviants. Both are deviants because in both the cases we have mismatch between goals and means. Both are deviants. How? कैसे? जिनको गोल से मतलब नहीं, जिनको मीन से मतलब नहीं, the people who do not accept these things as goals, they have their own life, they are not creating any harm to society. So think about people जिनका काम सिर्फ घूमना है जिंदगी में, वो कोई नुकसान थोड़ा ना पहुंचा रहे किसी को, अपना घूम रहे हैं. They are not deviants. Hippies, vagabonds, okay, they are not deviants according to this definition. Okay. Rebellions are deviants. They are deviant. Okay. So who are not deviant? Plus are not deviants. Minus are not deviants. because in both cases there is no mismatch, but in other three cases there is a mismatch. इसको ध्यान रखना है. रिबेलियंस तो है, वो तो मैंने बोला रिबेलियंस तो है डिविएंट. ओके, deviant, 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 D, D, D. Now see the examples. Conformist, everyone who possess means to fulfill goals, who are born to affluent family, well-off families, privileged families, okay, who can afford coaching, who can afford everything, they are conformist. They do not have any issue. For example, any person who belongs to middle class family or upper middle class family, born to family of educated people, he will have a socialization that will help him attain good qualification in different universities, which will help him yield better results in life, which will help him get better placements in different companies. Okay, those are conformist. Simple. Innovators who subscribe to goals. Okay, they want car, they want bungalow, they want luxury, but they do not subscribe to legitimate means. They have illegitimate means to get those things. Those are innovators. Drug addicts, peddlers, पैसा कमाएंगे by selling illegal substance. Okay, पैब्लो की बात कर रहे हो या एस्कोबार की बात कर रहे हो? क्योंकि पैब्लो एस्कोबार इज अ स्कॉलर. आई मीन मुझे नहीं पता तुम कौन से वाला पैब्लो की बात कर रहे हो, वो जो मैक्सिकन वो आदमी है पेडलर, उसकी बात कर रहे हो या फिर एस्कोबार की बात कर रहे हो जो एक सोशियोलॉजिस्ट है? अच्छा, कार्टेल वर्ल्ड, हाँ ठीक है. एस्कोबार इज अ पोस्ट डेवलपमेंट थ्योरिस्ट. ओके, वो मैं आगे बताऊंगा. हाँ वो सही बात है, पैब्लो सही है. ड्रग पेडलर्स. ओके, money launderers, gamblers, people who are engaged in money laundering, innovators. ठीक है. Ritualist. Who are ritualists and why they are deviants? They are not so concerned about goals in life. Material चीजें जो हैं, गाड़ी बंगला ये सब, they are not so bothered about it. जो भी करेंगे ऑनेस्टली करेंगे. ऑनेस्टी इज द बेस्ट पॉलिसी. चाहे रिजल्ट जो भी हो, कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मैं करूंगा ही नहीं, कर्म ही करूंगा सिर्फ. ओके, these are those people. Think about caste structure of India. It is completely based on ritualism. Caste structure of India is completely based on ritualism. The lower caste would not have any goal because their dharma is to fulfill this duty of menial work. So they would not have any aspirations. So caste structure restricts your aspiration. ठीक है. जो करेंगे lawfully करेंगे, not bothered about material goals. Okay. Ritualism is inherent to Indian caste structure. Also, there is one scholar, Latif Chaudhary. Latif Chaudhary. Latif Chaudhary has studied bureaucracy of South Asian countries. Okay, South Asian countries का bureaucracy को उसने study किया है. नेपाल, भूटान, बांग्लादेश, इंडिया, श्रीलंका. Because these countries are, you know, coming out as highly corrupt countries in corruption index. Okay, so obviously he had to study bureaucracy. Corruption is there, that means bureaucracy is not working efficiently. Okay, mismanagement is there, efficient model is not being worked the way it is supposed to be working in a rational fashion. Okay, and he found out and he labeled South Asian bureaucracies as rent seeking bureaucracy. Rent seekers हैं ये सारे, rent seekers, काम करने के लिए इनको पैसा चाहिए, ठीक है. These are rent seekers bureau. This is known as rent seeker bureaucrat or rent seeking bureaucracy. Okay, so when you seek rent from bottom most level to top level, यही चल रहा है अगर, okay, then efficiency कैसे आएगी? And those kind of bureaucrats are ritualist and innovators both. They can be fit in both categories. Okay, rent seeker bureaucrat, rent seeker bureaucrat. Okay, innovators में तो पक्का ही आएंगे वो. In ritualist you will write caste structure, Indian caste structure, and also some low grade bureaucrat who is not so ambitious or aspirational. A model you will describe, you will not discuss any one specific person, you will describe a model. Low grade bureaucrats who are not so concerned with goals, always concerned with means oriented, not goal oriented. Those are ritualists, where means become end in itself. This is what Robert Merton said, dysfunctions of bureaucracy. Okay, next, retreatist. Retreatists are those people who are neither concerned with goal nor concerned with means. Vagabonds, hippies. Okay, these are those people, retreatist. Rebellion, as I told you, are those people who bring forward social change in society. Okay, they change the system altogether. System he change. What was, for example, for Gandhi, culturally defined goal. If I were to ask this question to Gandhi, what should be culturally defined goal? Gandhi would not have said culturally defined goal is, you know, to have your car, bungalow. What was culturally defined goal? If Gandhi were to discuss on the Ram Rajya, the ideal society that he had in his mind, where goal would be limited needs, limit to needs, trusteeship. If you have earned more than what you desire or more than what you need, usko बांट दो. Trusteeship, donate it. You should be trustee of the extra wealth that you have appropriated. You should be dividing that. Okay, now this is very peaceful method, unlike Marxist. Marx also talks about distribution of wealth, बट इन अ वायलेंट फैशन, रेवोल्यूशन से। बट गांधी बोलता है नहीं नहीं यार, आराम से ये तो खुद ही कर देंगे, इसमें मारने की जरूरत नहीं इनको, एक पॉइंट के बाद ये खुद ही कर देंगे, देखना। मीन्स का डिफरेंस है, एंड दोनों का एक ही है, गांधी और मार्क्स का। फेबियन सोशलिज्म तो अलग चीज है। गांधी फेबियन सोशलिस्ट छोड़ना है। गांधी एनार्किस्ट है, एनार्किस्ट। ही इज नॉट फेबियन सोशलिस्ट। अरे गांधी, डिड गांधी सपोर्ट द स्टेट सिस्टम? गांधी नेवर सपोर्टेड स्टेट। स्टेट तुम्हें पता है ना, ये जो इंडियन स्टेट अभी हमारे सामने है, दिस इज नॉट द काइंड ऑफ थिंग दैट सोसाइटी दैट गांधी वांटेड। ही वांटेड, ही आल्सो वांटेड स्टेटलेस सोसाइटी। अगर किसी को मालूम नहीं है ये चीज तो मैं बता दूं, ही आल्सो वांटेड स्टेटलेस सोसाइटी। ठीक है, उसके लिए इट इज नॉट द स्टेट विच इज गोइंग टू एडमिनिस्टर पीपल, इट इज द विलेज असेंबली, लोकल लेवल पंचायत, कम्युनल सिस्टम जिसको बोलते हैं, जो कि विच ब्रिंग्स हिम वेरी क्लोज टू मार्क्स। ओके, कम्यून सिस्टम, विलेज सिस्टम, ये जो विलेज पंचायत का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, पंचायती राज, दिस इज बेस्ड ऑन गांधीयन प्रिंसिपल्स। ओके, ऐसा पंचायती राज पूरे इंडिया में हो, स्टेट की जरूरत ही नहीं, हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हो पंचायती राज, स्टेट क्या काम रहेगा? हर कोई पंचायत अपने अपने डिस्ट्रिक्ट को मैनेज करे। हाँ, सेल्फ सफिशिएंट विलेज। ओके, सो रिबेलियन नाउ, Gandhi was against everything basically, even against political party, system of political party. Political party as a system he did not like, and he believed it should wither away, just like Marx saying. Marx says socialism shall wither away with the distribution of goods and resources. State shall wither away. Okay. Similarly, Gandhi is saying political parties shall wither away. तो कांग्रेस को खत्म हो जाना चाहिए था इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद, बट कांग्रेस सस्टेन्ड और अभी भी चल रही है। बीजेपी भी आ गई, अब तो एक नया पार्टी आ गया। ठीक है, तो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी सिस्टम तो बढ़ता ही जा रहा है, क्योंकि नाउ वी हैव कास्ट बेस्ड पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज एज वेल। बहुजन समाजवादी पार्टी, बीएसपी, कास्ट बेस्ड पार्टी। वी हैव एथनिसिटी बेस्ड पार्टी एज वेल, अकाली दल, पंजाबी का। ठीक है, डीएमके, साउथ इंडिया, एथनिसिटी बेस्ड। ओके, नाउ वी हैव वुमेन्स पार्टी एज वेल, women's party. In year 2020, All India Women's National Party was formed, political party. अब वुमेन जेंडर बेस्ड पॉलिटिकल पार्टी भी आ गई है। तो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का सिस्टम बढ़ते जा रहा है, जेंडर बेस्ड, एथनिसिटी बेस्ड, कास्ट बेस्ड, ट्राइबल पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज आर आल्सो देयर, ट्राइबल, झारखंड में, छत्तीसगढ़ में, देयर आर पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज, देयर आर पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज बेस्ड ऑन वेस्टर्न आइडियोलॉजीज। कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ऑफ इंडिया, मार्क्सिस्ट। कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ऑफ इंडिया, मार्क्सिस्ट लेनिनिस्ट, माओइस्ट। Okay, Congress is also based on ideologies that it has borrowed from Western civilizations. Congress. Okay, it is not based on indigenous value system of India. Bharatiya Janata Party, based on religion. Okay, you have parties based on different criteria now. Can we say religion based बीजेपी? हाँ, तो वो मैंने बोला अभी। अच्छा, तुमने उससे पहले लिख दिया था, ठीक है। So this was Merton's deviance theory, very simple. Now You tell me, how did Merton explain deviance? Deviance, Merton says, why there is crime rate in any society? Because in the first place, we have such kind of goals, material goals. If you have material goals and people do not have proper social location to achieve those goals. See, goals are equally, you as a democracy, you have told people, everyone has equal opportunity to attain this goal. सबको मिलेगा. Everyone has equal opportunity to become IAS officer. Okay. But then the problem is everyone is not equally socially placed in society to become IAS. कुछ लोग गरीब हैं, कोचिंग नहीं ले पा रहे, किताब भी नहीं खरीद पा रहे, इतने गरीब. Okay. Caste based discrimination is there. Yesterday only, 2 days back, Ministry of Social Justice wrote one letter to UPSC. There should not be caste based discrimination in personality test. And therefore, when people come to you for interview, dare you talk about anything related to caste? Okay. And also, you in your page should not have that in your DAF, the DAF that those people have. The page where caste is mentioned should be stripped off. There should not be any page related to caste. Okay. So caste based discrimination is there. Class based problems are there. Think about transgenders. They are transgenders. That is why they are not able to become IAS officers. In year 2019, UPSC has actually allowed people, transgender as well. Okay. But just by opening the platform to transgenders will not make them IAS, because they are not socially placed adequately to purchase those books or to study in that environment, because their environment does not allow them to study. Even if they have ambitions individually, socially, they would be restricted, because they would be forced every day to go to these street lights, beg for money, and indulge in sex work for their survival. पढ़ेंगे कब फिर? So basically, what Merton says, we have culturally defined goal equally available to everyone, but socially legitimate means are not equally available to everyone because of social location. But everyone lives under this pressure to have money, to have wealth, to have their own car, to have fame, to have status. Everyone is living in this pressure, and this is leading to crimes. Because to have fame or money, they will resort to illegitimate activities now. This is what explains crime. And therefore, anomie is rooted in social structure. First place पे ऐसे goals ही ना हो तो कोई criminal ही ना बने. ये goals की वजह से criminal लोग बनते हैं. Okay, and which is very different perspective. He is not saying poverty leads to crime. ऐसा बोला उसने ना. Unemployment leads to crime ना. ठीक है. Isn't CDG imparted through socialization? हाँ, बिल्कुल. खत्म. Deviance typology is over. Next topic is Matthew effect. Matthew effect. Matthew effect is very simple. You know, very few people become criminal. Maximum people are conformist. Very few people become deviant. Okay. Why? The people who are conformist have comparative advantage over those people who are deviants. Okay. They are well placed in society. अच्छी फैमिली में पैदा हुए, पढ़े लिखे लोग थे, उन्होंने और आगे इसको बढ़ा दिया. They had cultural capital, social capital, economic capital. बच्चे को भी वही सारे कैपिटल्स दिए, आगे जाके वो भी पढ़ने लग गया. Symbolic capital आ गया, इज्जत भी पाली, पैसा भी आ गया. Some people did not have such family or such values. Differential association, they were sitting and talking to people who are like them only, who did not have adequate education. उनके साथ ही उठना बैठना, ठीक है, एक्टिवा पे भी घूमना, आगे पीछे, यहाँ वहां, चप्पल पहन के, ठीक है. Some people have comparative advantage over others. And the people who do not have advantage, they feel relative deprivation. Always. Okay. Now, so what is Matthew effect basically? Matthew effect simply means comparative advantage. Comparative advantage. Okay. The inventor of DNA discovery, the people who discovered DNA profile. Okay. Rosalind Franklin was a female scientist who actually was original contributor to the discovery of DNA. But the people who got Nobel Prize were males. Being male, you have comparative advantage over females. Okay. Because as a male member, you get to know many people. आप 10 बजे भी निकलो, 12 बजे भी, जिससे मिलना मिलो, आपका कॉन्टैक्ट बढ़ता रहेगा, जान पहचान बढ़ती रहेगी, आपकी दोस्ती होएगी, ठीक है, पैसा आएगा, स्टेटस मिलेगा. As a female, you have restrictions. No, you cannot go out after this time. आपके कॉन्टैक्ट्स मिनिमाइज हो जाएंगे, शादी के बाद और खत्म हो जाएंगे. तो दोनों की डायरेक्शन उल्टी चलती है. आदमी के कॉन्टैक्ट्स बढ़ते जाते हैं, और विमेन के कॉन्टैक्ट्स कम होते जाते हैं. तो मैन हैज कंपैरेटिव एडवांटेज ओवर विमेन. And therefore, even if you have in science, even if I talk about science, in natural sciences, what happens is most of the people who have discovered anything, and if in that case, if the team also consisted of female, in very few occurrences you would find those females being recognized. अभी ये जो अभिजीत बनर्जी है, he got more famous than his wife. Okay. अभी सब बोलते हैं नोबेल प्राइज अभिजीत बनर्जी को मिला, उसका नाम नहीं ले रहे होते फीमेल का, उसको भी मिला है, ठीक है, उसकी वाइफ को भी. But being a male, he has comparative advantage. He will be invited to address different people in economic conferences. उसकी वाइफ को नहीं बुलाएंगे. ये होता है. As a male, you have comparative advantage, and this is what Merton is saying. Karl Marx says, money begets money. Something that Benjamin Franklin also says. And Karl Marx puts this thing in equation like M1C M2. M1C M2. Money begets money. Merton says it is not money that begets money, it is advantage that begets advantage. You are placed in an advantageous position, and that's how you get more and more advantage. राहुल गांधी ऑक्सफोर्ड हार्वर्ड में पढ़ा है. Why? Because गांधी है वो. ऐसा थोड़ा ना पैसा उसके पास है या एजुकेशन क्वालिफिकेशन ऐसी है. उससे ज्यादा पैसे वाले लोग हैं इंडिया में, और उससे ज्यादा एजुकेशन क्वालिफिकेशन वाले लोग भी हैं इंडिया में. बट व्हाई ही कुड गेट एजुकेशन इन हार्वर्ड, ऑक्सफोर्ड? Because he is member of Gandhi family. Advantage he has, which no other people have. Advantage begets advantage. Okay. This is what Matthew effect is all about. And when you meet people who are placed in advantageous positions in society, क्या होता है उनसे मिलकर? लगता है कुछ तो कमी हमारे अंदर रह गई थी. Somehow you feel inferior when you meet such people. ठीक है? You feel deprived. This is known as relative deprivation. You are feeling deprived when you meet them. ऐसे एक अपने दोस्तों से मिलो full एकदम confidence में. Okay, but the moment you start meeting such people, sir, hello sir, because you are relatively deprived in comparison to that. It is relative deprivation. It is not absolute deprivation. It is not have-nots. Marx talks about haves and have-nots. There are two kinds of people in society. One who own the means of production, second who do not. Absolutely privileged, absolutely deprived. Merton says there is no absolute deprivation. It is only relative. Even amongst proletariats, some people will be richer than others. So within proletariats, you will see deprivation. They would not be deprived in comparison to bourgeoisie. उनके लिए तो वो reference point ही नहीं है. I do not feel deprived in comparison to Ambani or Tata. मेरे क्या लगते हैं वो? उनसे मैं मुकाबला क्यों करूं? मुझे तो उस दोस्त से देखना है वो जो अमेरिका में बकवास कर रहा है वहां बैठकर फेसबुक में. ठीक है? रिलेटिव डेप्रिवेशन मेरी तो उधर है. मुझे अंबानी अडानी से क्या करना? ठीक है? Relative deprivation is very important phenomena. And it is not just relative deprivation. It is also relative alienation. You feel alienated relatively. Alienation is not absolute. Okay. In comparison to someone, you may feel alienated. Relative deprivation is also known as relative alienation. ये पता नहीं होगा कई बच्चों को. Okay. काफी को नहीं पता रहता ये सब. Why these people are writing these theories is very important to understand, because they are writing in a context. Okay. Merton is replying to Marx every time. छुप छुप के. ऐसे लिखते नहीं है ये लोग कि ये पैराग्राफ में मार्क्स के लिए लिख रहा हूं. पता चल जाता है. इंटरप्रिटेशन. ओके. hermeneutics, intention of author. Okay. Social distancing. Coronavirus. Everybody should maintain social distance. Social distancing is a privilege. Only those people who are situated in an advantageous position in society can maintain social distance, because they have big house, bungalows, they have all the facilities, water running every time 24/7. full sanitation, they can maintain everything. Think about those people who are homeless or who have one bedroom, उसी के अंदर किचन है, उसी के अंदर हॉल है, उसी के अंदर स्टडी है, जो मैक्सिमम है इंडिया में. They cannot maintain social distance, and therefore social distancing and the failure in social distancing can be explained with relative deprivation. Matthew effect. The people who have contracted corona are not just the victims of corona, they are not just COVID patient, they are relatively deprived people. Okay, they are relatively deprived in comparison to those who did not contract corona or who got 2 vaccines within 10 days. 2 वैक्सीन मिल गई within 30 days. Okay, people who had Covaxin, they were in advantageous position in comparison to those people. दूसरी कौन सी थी? कोविशील्ड. कंपैरेटिव एडवांटेज, मैथ्यू इफेक्ट. कोविशील्ड वाला जो है, कोविशील्ड वालों को मैक्सिमम हो रहा है कोरोना, मैक्सिमम. कोवैक्सीन वालों को कम हो रहा है. ये स्टडी आई है, कितनी सही है कितनी नहीं ये तो जानते नहीं. ठीक है, आई है तो आई है. मुझे अपना ही पता है कोवैक्सीन कैसे मेरे को लगी है. कॉन्टैक्ट थे, क्योंकि नहीं लग रही थी सबको, ऐसे नहीं मिल रही थी कोवैक्सीन, अवेलेबल नहीं थी दिल्ली में. ओके, so I had this comparative advantage. I had social capital, सारे कैपिटल्स लगा दिए मैंने, and I got COVID free. ओके, बिना मास्क के घूम सकते हैं आराम से, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. पैसे लेंगे तो वो तो अलग चीज है, बट कोविड से नहीं डर सकते अब. ठीक है, ओके. This was one theory, another. Now next theory. Reference group. What is reference group? You know, every person in this world compares himself with some other people. हमेशा ये होता है, हमेशा. वो यहां चले गया, वो उसने ये कर लिया, मैं अभी तक यही कर रहा हूं, मैं यहीं रह गया. ठीक है, you comparatively, you always evaluate yourself in comparison to the people who you think are well off and well placed. Okay, relative deprivation is something that is everyday phenomena. You feel relatively deprived in comparison to a group or an individual as well. Although we have reference group theory in our syllabus, there is a term known as reference individuals as well. A term given by Merton only, which he later called as role models, जिसको अब हम कॉमन सेंस में यूज करते हैं, रोल मॉडल. वो टर्म उसका दिया हुआ है. ठीक है, मर्टन ने दिया था वो टर्म, रोल मॉडल. Every day we feel this is the kind of person I want to be like. This is the kind of wealth I want to appropriate. This is the kind of car that I want to have. ये वाली कार चाहिए, वो निकली वहां से, वो देख वो देख वो देख, चले गई यार, तूने मिस कर दिया, अब पता नहीं दोबारा कब आएगी. ठीक है, तो ये होता है एवरीडे लाइफ में. ओके, एवरी टाइम वी फील रिलेटिवली डिप्राइव्ड. पिज्जा खा रहे होंगे, आराम से बैठे होंगे, देख लेंगे सामने वाला गार्लिक ब्रेड खा रहा है, यार मंगाएगा गार्लिक ब्रेड एक. क्यों पिज्जा मंगवाए? अरे यार गार्लिक ब्रेड भी अच्छी होगी। अच्छी क्या होगी बे, उसको देखा है तूने? अब वो कल को कुछ और मंगा लेगा, तू यही बैठ के यही करता रहेगा। चल मंगा ले एक गार्लिक ब्रेड और चीज ही डिप भी कर दियो साथ में। क्रिएटिव डेप्रिवेशन हर टाइम होता है। रेफरेंस ग्रुप थ्योरी, राइट डाउन, is used to explain reference group theory is used to explain how individuals or different groups evaluate themselves in relation to other individual or groups. Okay, individual, I am also using the word in case if we describe reference individual as well, because when you are describing reference group तो फिर individual मत लिखो, but मैंने दोनों लिखवा दिया ताकि दोनों का सेंस बन जाए. Okay. Merton believed relative deprivation is felt by individuals or groups in relation to another group, another set of group. Okay. So this is what Merton says. Now, the question is, why is Merton discussing this theory, reference group theory? क्यों? ऐसे थोड़ा ना, हर एक चीज का एक रीजन होएगा. The times when Merton is writing was a period of Cold War, post-World War situation in America. Okay. And American soldiers were stationed across different countries. Okay. They were not limited only to America. American soldiers were visible even in Japan, China, Russia. हर जगह उनके military base थे. They had military base all over the world. Okay. And the people in the American army, they always felt relative deprivation in comparison to those American soldiers who were there in America. Think about American soldier in Japan in comparison to an American soldier who is in America. Because that person can stay with his family. And this man does not even know कब जाएगा वो family से मिलने. He does not even know whether he will ever get back to America or not. Relative deprivation. For this man, it was the reference group was the American soldiers stationed within America. कितनी प्रैक्टिकल स्टडी है, सिंपल स्टडी है, ज्यादा कुछ थियोरेटिकल नहीं है. ओके, एंड एवरीडे फिनोमेना है. Now Merton says there are two kinds of reference groups. Two kinds of reference groups. First, membership group. Second, non-membership group. Simple. This he has borrowed from psychology. Okay, so now we are reading more of social psychology. It is not purely sociology now. It is more of social psychology. It is group dynamics. We are studying groups, group behavior, not just individual behavior or not just society, equilibrium, structures. We are not talking about groups. बीच में आ रहे हैं हम एकदम. Okay. Membership group is also called as in-group, a term used by psychologists, Sumner, and many other people. In-group, out-group. Okay. Cooley has also discussed different groups. in group, out group. Membership group means, suppose you are a cricketer, okay, playing for Indian team in Ranji, okay, Ranji trophy के लिए खेल रहे हो आप. So the people in the Ranji team, to me, all those people, if I'm the cricketer in Ranji team, to me, all those people in the team form membership group, my membership group. Ranji cricket team of India, my membership group. The team chosen for T20 World Cup, another membership group, but not my, I'm not member of that, but it is a membership group also. But I want to be there. I want to see myself in T20 World Cup cricket. मेरे को सिलेक्टर सिलेक्ट नहीं कर रहे क्योंकि मैं कोहली को ज्यादा फेवर नहीं करता हूं या फिर मेरा कुछ झगड़ा हो गया था कोहली से. ओके, मेरे को सिलेक्ट नहीं कर रहे वो, बट समहाउ आई फील डिप्राइव्ड. यार आई शुड हैव बीन देयर. उसको ले लिया, बेकार खेलता है वो, पिछले 2 मैच से 1 रन नहीं बनाया. ठीक है, I feel relative deprivation. That member is out group for me, non-membership group for me, and this group in Ranji is membership group for me. Every individual evaluates himself and his position in relation to another group, compares himself with other group, feels relative deprivation, and also tries to overcome his relative deprivation. उसको कोशिश भी करता है वो डेप्रिवेशन को खत्म करने की. Okay, and he resolves this dilemma, overcomes relative deprivation by a process called as anticipatory socialization. Anticipatory socialization. You start doing all those things which you think can help you get membership of that group. ठीक है, पूरा दिन रात मेहनत करोगे, पूरा दिन रात मेहनत करोगे, कोच से बात करोगे, you will talk to team leaders who will encourage you, who will guide you, ऐसे करो ऐसे करो ऐसे करो, निकल जाएगा, हो जाएगा T20 में तुम्हारा. ठीक है, you will start following routine of your seniors. ठीक है, seniors will guide you, mentor you, and one day you get a chance to become a member of T20, and then you say thanks to all of them. इन्होंने मुझे हेल्प करी, गाइड किया, मेरा रिलेटिव डेप्रिवेशन इन्होंने खत्म किया जो मर्टन ने पॉइंट किया था, और एंटीसिपेटरी सोशलाइजेशन करके मैं यहां तक पहुंच गया. ठीक है, everyone does anticipatory socialization. You anticipate what are the things required to enter that team. उसको आप एंटिसिपेट करते हो. यू मेक योर रूटीन, मेक योर शेड्यूल एवरी डे. दिस इज व्हाट यू डू. खत्म. एंटिसिपेटरी सोशलाइजेशन इज ओवर. membership non-membership group is over. Now, what is the relevance of this theory? We know relative deprivation now. We know reference group theory now. We know anticipatory socialization also. अच्छा हुआ क्या? But what did we achieve? Reference group behavior explains social mobility in societies. Social mobility in society can be explained by reference group behavior. एक बेटा या बेटी, a son or a daughter of auto rickshaw wala has become IAS is the headline of newspaper. Okay. Social mobility, this not social mobility? He was son of auto rickshaw wala. Today he is IAS officer. Social mobility, vertical, jump मारी सीधा नीचे से ऊपर. Okay. Why did he jump? He felt relative deprivation or not? Every day he was abused by people. ओए रिक्शे वाले चल आगे लेके जाओ अपनी गाड़ी फटाफट. ये अपनी गाड़ी चढ़ा दूंगा तुम्हारे ऊपर. टाइम नहीं है तुम्हारे पास, मेरे पास तो बहुत है. निकलो. ठीक है. ऐसे से सुन सुन के उसको आ गया गुस्सा. उसने बोला इसको मैं बताता हूँ आईएएस क्या होता है. ठीक है. और इसके डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ही बनूंगा आईएएस ऑफिसर. ठीक है. पता किया पहले उसका ये कहाँ रहता है, पहले पता करो और उसके बाद साथ वाली दुकान से किताब लेके आना ये वाली. ठीक है. वो सारी किताब लेके आया उसका दोस्त और पता भी करवाया कि यहाँ रहता है. कोई दिक्कत नहीं, यही डिस्ट्रिक्ट होएगा, होम कैटर यही है मेरा से. ठीक है. बन गया आईएएस ऑफिसर. अगले दिन उसको बुलाया, चेयर पलटी अपनी, बोला याद है तुझे. ये करके उसने अपना जो ग्रज है पूरी की. इसके लिए बनाया आईएएस ऑफिसर, बदला लेने के लिए. बट ठीक है चलो. एंटिसिपेटरी सोशलाइजेशन, because he watched some toppers videos on YouTube. Toppers had suggested ये सब करना पड़ेगा तुमको. ठीक है. Then he thought, but I do not know English. तो then some topper said, but तुम्हारे ऑटो वाले ऑटो के पीछे लिखा हुआ है learn English in 10 days. तो उसी ऑटो के पीछे जो नंबर लिखा है उस पर कॉल करके you can learn English in 10 days. And जो 10 days में whatever you will learn that will be sufficient for UPSC, because UPSC does not check your grammar. It is mainly about your content. Because we have to write only 150 and 250. So he got confidence. Okay. ठीक है. So जो उसको limited resources थे, he believed in limited resources. Okay. Because of course there were situational and normative constraint as well. Situational constraint because he could not afford those much books. So obviously limited तो पढ़ना ही था. So limited time and limited resource was not a bane, it was boon to him. Okay. लोग के लिए ये बेन होता है, इतने से क्या होएगा, और लाओ, पैसा बहुत है हमारे पास, और लाओ. ठीक है. So basically reference group theory explains social mobility. Social mobility. Okay. Just think like this. Membership group, non-membership group, relative deprivation, anticipatory socialization, and this is social mobility. खत्म. बन गया फ्लो चार्ट भी. Okay, rest of the things you can easily read. मतलब ये this scholar is very easy. Basically, I don't need to explain him so much. ये इतना आसान है, आप खुद भी पढ़ लोगे, इसलिए मैं ज्यादा फोकस नहीं कर रहा हूँ इसके ऊपर. ठीक है. जो जितना रिक्वायर्ड है उतना तो बता ही रहा हूँ मैं. Reference group theory can be used to explain mass communication, PR relations, marketing of political leaders. PR campaign of political leaders. Everything can be explained by reference group theory. Fashion industry, proliferation of fashion industry, ever evolving, changing fashion in society can be explained by reference group. तुम गए मार्केट में, you saw a very fancy kind of jeans that man had put on. Okay, कहाँ से ली हो यार इसने? Where did he purchase this jeans from? क्या करें? उससे पूछेंगे नहीं, इज्जत की बात है, ठीक है? You will try to get very close to him. Okay, not so close that he gets offended, but at least that much, with the help of which you get to know exactly the brand of jeans that he's wearing. Okay, so you try to sneak through. And then finally you get to know that, okay, this is the brand that he's wearing. Ab you start searching for the same brand on Myntra, Amazon, तुम्हें मिल नहीं रहा. ये तो मिल रहा, मेरे को ये कहां से लिया इसने? And then your friend told you, अबे ये तो भाई import होता है, ये इंडिया में, this is not available in India, this is coming from outside. Oh, what will you do? You will purchase it from ebay.com. सेकंड हैंड लेंगे पर लेंगे जरूर, ठीक है? eBay से ले लिया, अब उसको पहन के घूम रहे हैं रोज, दोस्तों को अच्छा लगा, रहा यार कहां से लिए तूने? हाँ ये तो महंगी है, तेरे को नहीं मिलेगी, ये कुछ 50,000 की जीन्स है, छोड़ दे. उसको गुस्सा आ जाएगा, ऐसे कैसे बोल रहे हैं मेरे साथ ये, मैं भी लूंगा. अब वो जाएगा पालिका बाजार, सरोजनी नगर, he'll buy the same jeans, exactly बिल्कुल वही लगती है, ठीक है? उसके सामने से घूमेगा बार बार. दोस्तों के फैशन बदल जाते हैं, रेफरेंस ग्रुप थ्योरी एक्सप्लेन करती है ये चीज. एवरी टाइम यू फील रिलेटिव डेप्रीवेशन, एक अभी अभी कपड़ा लिया है, किसी और को देख लिया, यार ये कौन सा है, खरीद लिया वही सेम कपड़ा कहीं से, ठीक है? ये तो रोज देखते हैं हम. Reference group theory can also explain marketing of political leaders, PR agency of political leaders, or even media channel, mass communication. You see one channel regularly telecasting show on something which is very alien. UFO spotted near अंधेरी, हैं? अंधेरी के पास UFO आया है, व्यूज बढ़ गए. Now बाकी channels, they will see all the TRPs are going in this direction. This channel is showing fake news, getting TRPs. हम भी कर सकते हैं भाई, चलाओ हॉरर कहानियां चलाओ, हॉरर स्टोरीज चला शुरू कर दिया. Where the whole idea of competition between channels, competition between corporate sector can be explained by relative deprivation theory, reference group theory. सब कुछ explain कर सकते हो यार तुम reference group theory से. You guys preparing for IAS can be explained by reference group theory, relative deprivation theory. हर जगह लग जाती है. शुरू हुआ था अमेरिकन सोल्जर से, वो कहाँ खड़ा था उधर, वो कहाँ तक हम ले आए उसको, यूपीएससी तक, ठीक है? This is what Merton is saying कि theories वो develop करो, develop those theories which are applicable, valid and universally applicable. In a sense, it might have gotten developed in a specific historical context, but the range of that theory should not be so wide that they are not valid after time, or after they are not valid across time and space. Okay, range should be so at such a level that across time and space those theories are valid. आपकी रेंज बड़ी होगी थ्योरीज की तो वो वैलिड नहीं रहेगी. जैसे मार्क्स की थ्योरी की रेंज बहुत बड़ी मानी जाती है. इट इज नोन एज grand theory. It falls in the domain of grand theory, Marxism. Sigmund Freud falls in the domain of grand theory. Jean Piaget, cognitive development theory, falls under domain of grand theory. Durkheim's anomy falls under grand theory. Weber's rationalization thesis falls under grand theory. Merton's relative deprivation, ये grand theory तो नहीं है. Very much applicable, relatable, everyday life, can be tested as well. Now with this, I would like to discuss one very important thing with you: types of theories. Types of theories. Okay. Which is basically a summation of whatever we have read. Okay. And will also help you understand one concept given by Merton, middle range theory. Okay. So first I'll take 2-minute break, then we will continue. 4 baje. We'll have class till 5 p.m. Okay. So audible? ठीक है. Now, reference group theory is important contribution by Merton, and this explains many things. In fact, everything can be explained by reference group theory. Okay. International relations can be explained by reference group theory. International relations also. By we are third world. They are first world. Relative deprivation. So we always ask for technology दे दो, फंड दे दो, नहीं है हमारे पास. Relative deprivation. BPL, relative deprivation to APL. Antyodaya, relative deprivation to BPL. Women, relative deprivation to male. Women empowerment we have for that. Okay. Labor force participation rate of women in India is falling in comparison to global countries. So Indian women labor force feel relatively deprived. So we have pressure groups, women association, putting pressure on state to give employment to women. This is happening only because of relative deprivation. Relative deprivation. Reference group. The very idea of having wage for domestic work is the result of relative deprivation. क्या बात है? Because they are relatively deprived in comparison to the male breadwinners. And this leaves them vulnerable to domestic abuse. Relative deprivation. The very idea of Maratha people in Maharashtra asking for reservation is an example of relative deprivation. Those people, Maratha caste, is a dominant caste. It falls under a category called as dominant caste, which I'll explain kabhi baad mein aage jaake. Dominant caste means the powerful caste groups. Yadav in UP is a dominant caste. Patidar in Gujarat, Patels, dominant caste. Similarly, Maharashtra, Jat, Gujar, dominant caste. Ahirs in Western UP. Okay. These are dominant caste. When they ask for reservation, it shows they are feeling relatively deprived in comparison to those who were relatively deprived at one point of time in comparison to these who are now demanding reservation. कभी मराठा से बहुत आगे थे वो लोग, क्या कभी मराठा से बहुत पीछे थे वो लोग जो आज आगे चले गए हैं. तो आज मराठा को क्यों चाहिए? क्योंकि आज वो लोग आगे चले गए और हम यहीं रह गए जबकि हम थे आगे. तो रिलेटिव डेप्रिवेशन जो है वो रिजर्वेशन एक्सप्लेन कर रहा है. रेफरेंस ग्रुप. Yadavs were initially Shudra. Yadavs were Shudra. फिर इन्होंने क्या किया? Shudra Varna in the Varna system is at the bottommost rank. Okay. BKVS, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, BKVS, Bakwas. Okay. Shudra is the last in the category of Bakwas. Okay. They made up a story. We have descended from King Yadu. कृष्ण के डिसेंडेंट्स हैं हम, कृष्ण के. जाति पुराण लिखी है हमने. देखो जाति पुराण पढ़ो, हमारी पुराण, जाति पुराण, कास्ट पुराण. ओके. उसमें पता चल जाएगा तुम्हें हम कृष्ण से आए थे. कृष्ण की लड़ाई हुई थी एक दिन, उसका खून निकल गया कृष्ण का लड़ते लड़ते. उस खून से हम निकले थे. ये लिखा है उसके अंदर, चेक कर लो. लिखा है तो फिर क्या चाहिए हमको? कुछ नहीं चाहिए हमको. तो क्या हमको बस पॉलिटिक्स में जगह चाहिए और क्या? कृष्ण के हैं, मिल जाएगी. अब यादव जो है बेसिकली दिस इज नोन एज क्षत्रियाइजेशन. टुडे दे क्लेम क्षत्रिय स्टेटस. They were Shudra, today they claim Kshatriya status. Relative deprivation, which they felt, helped them go through anticipatory socialization. They formed Jati Puran to justify that they are superiors, and then claimed higher status. Kshatriyization became dominant caste group. Again, today they are feeling relatively deprived. यादव का वोट बैंक टूटते जा रहा है. यादव का जो वोट बैंक है वो टूटते जा रहा है. Today we do not have vote banks based on caste alone. Okay. Caste is a vote bank. As I told you, if you remember, caste needs democracy as much democracy needs caste. Integration, Talcott Parsons. Integration between organs. लोगों के बीच में इंटीग्रेशन नहीं दिखाना, वो तो डरखाइन करेगा. Talcott Parsons ऊपर के लेवल का है. Organs के बीच में इंटीग्रेशन. Caste and democracy are organs of society. अच्छा, why? Tell me why democracy needs caste. बताओ. Why democracy needs caste? Let's see. Representation of lower strata. हाँ, vote bank. Democracy needs caste because caste is vote bank. सीधी सी बात है. Democracy is about majority. Alexis de Tocqueville says it is not majority, it is tyranny of majority. Tyranny of majority. Just not just majority. It is tyranny of majority. And you know very well that the most oppressed section are minors. They are in numbers, very low in numbers. SC, STs are very low in numbers. तो मेजॉरिटी का मतलब क्या हुआ? अपर कास्ट विल रूल द लोअर कास्ट. इज दिस डेमोक्रेसी? It is not of the people, by the people, for the people. It is of the upper caste by the upper caste for the upper caste. Okay, you will see dominant caste ruling all over India in different pockets. ठीक है, इट इज नॉट डेमोक्रेसी. डेमोक्रेसी तभी तो मैं बोलता हूँ एक वो सिर्फ एक वो कॉन्सेप्ट फिनोमेना है जो हमारे दिमाग में एक आइडियल इमेज बना के बैठा है. रियलिटी बहुत अलग होती है. ठीक है सर, बट रिलेटिव डेप्रिवेशन विद इन द सेम मेंबर ग्रुप आल्सो पॉसिबल. हाँ वो तो है ही, बिल्कुल है, बिल्कुल है. विद इन द सेम ग्रुप, within the same group, I am Yadav, my friends are Yadav, everybody is Yadav around me. ठीक है, but one of these Yadav is very dominant. उसको समाजवादी पार्टी की टिकट भी मिल गई है. I am, in comparison to that Yadav, is feeling relative deprived. So that Yadav is a reference individual. He is not a reference group. A reference group may be the Samajwadi party, but that person is a reference individual for me. Then how can we use anticipatory socialization with reference to? यही तो मैंने बोला अभी. That person who got party ticket, Yadav. In comparison to that, I am relatively deprived within the same membership community, that is Yadavs. Okay. What will be the anticipatory socialization? अरे जो BSP है, BSP, I will approach it. मेरे बहुत कॉन्टैक्ट्स हैं, एक बार टिकट दो आप मुझे, इसको पीछे कर दूंगा मैं. आपकी पार्टी जीतेगी यूपी में, आप ही का रूल होएगा. अच्छा, हाई कमांड से बात करनी पड़ेगी, दीदी से, मायावती से. कर लो, मैं तो, मुझे कोई दिक्कत नहीं, टाइम बहुत है. बात कर ली. And he showed his potential to Mayawati. Mayawati got very happy, gave her ticket, gave him ticket. Anticipatory socialization यही तो है, और क्या है. बोला मायावती को एक बार चलो आप मेरे साथ, मैं आपको जीप में घुमाता हूँ, देखो आप मेरी दबंगाई. जीप में घुमाया, जहां जहां से निकला, अरे यादव भैया जी कैसे हो, सब ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है. निकल गए वहां से, मायावती को घर पहुंचा दिया, वापस आए, सबको 100 रुपए दिया, थैंक यू, हाँ अच्छा किया तुमने, कल फिर आना. ठीक है, दबंगाई हो गई. एंटीसिपेटरी सोशलाइजेशन. ऐसे तो बनते हैं लीडर पॉलिटिकल्स, और कैसे बनते हैं. मेहनत कौन करता है पॉलिटिशियन, कमाल कर रहे. So this was all about reference group theory. Now I'll explain you forms of theories. Acha, one more thing before I start discussing this. One more thing on reference group. Okay, write one line in reference group behavior only. Write one line. Anticipatory socialization. Anticipatory socialization is functional in open societies. Anticipatory socialization is functional in open societies and dysfunctional, a term which I will explain later on, dysfunctional in closed societies. Okay, this is very controversial statement by Merton, not very much valid, बड़ी लूज स्टेटमेंट है ये, और बहुत क्रिटिक्स हैं इसके. ओके, बट मैं आपको बस उतना ही बताऊंगा जितना आपके लिए रिक्वायर्ड है. Anticipatory socialization is functional in open societies and dysfunctional in closed societies. What is the meaning of this? It simply means that you can see, for example, your friend made it to St. Stephen's College. Okay, St. Stephen's में उसको admission मिल गई. You could not get admission in St. Stephen's. You got admission in Khalsa College. Okay. Acha, also assume, let us also assume both of them had similar marks, 99%. Let us assume like this. Okay. It happens. People having similar marks, they still get different colleges. Okay. That person, despite having similar marks, could not get seat in St. Stephen's. Why? Because he was not from a well-off family. He was not very fluent in English. Okay. He did not come from affluent family. To get admission in St. Stephen's, you do not just need marks. NCERT बोर्ड के मार्क्स सिर्फ से उससे थोड़ा ना होता एडमिशन. उसकी फीस अफोर्ड करने के लिए यू नीड टू बिलोंग टू अ क्लास एज वेल. एक क्लास जो कि लिखा नहीं होता, लिखते नहीं है कभी ये चीजें. इस क्लास के होने चाहिए आप. वो इतना बताएंगे आपके इतने मार्क्स होने चाहिए, ये नहीं बोलेंगे अपर क्लास के होने चाहिए. वो तो इम्प्लिसिट है. लिखने की क्या बात है? Advantage begets advantage. That person belonged to well-off family. He got seat in St. Stephen's. This man could not get seat in St. Stephen's because he did not belong to well-off family. Now Merton is saying anticipatory socialization is functional in open society. That means if, and what is open society, by the way? Open society means a society that is based on meritocracy. Closed society means where you do not get equal opportunities. And this is what a model, not absolute reality, because in absolute reality, you do not have a society where there is absolute equality. Neither you have any society where you have absolutely no equality or opportunity. ऐसे models सब बनाते हैं. Economists also develop these models. Open economy, closed economy बनाते हैं कि नहीं बनाते? बनाते हैं. क्या ओपन इकोनॉमी एब्सोल्युटली ओपन होती है? ना ही क्लोज्ड इकोनॉमी एब्सोल्युटली क्लोज होती है. फिर भी वैसी बकवास करते हैं. सोशियोलॉजी वाले क्यों नहीं करेंगे? ये ओपन इकोनॉमी बोलेंगे, हम ओपन सोसाइटी बोलेंगे. ठीक है. इन अ सोसाइटी वेयर यू गेट चांस to score better than other people only on the basis of your merit and secure a seat in a college that is very prestigious. In that society, anticipatory socialization is functional because anticipatory socialization is helping you to achieve social mobility. But in society where there is no equality, supposedly, no equal opportunity, there if you try to climb up the ladder, okay, then you will bear the consequences. In caste structure, when Indian society was caste society at one point of time. Imagine like this. Imagine person from lower caste trying to emulate upper caste or trying to be like upper caste or trying to practice upper caste occupations. What were the repercussions he had to undergo? A Shudra who is by chance fair, not black, by chance fair. Okay, ऐसा होता है in South India and in Jammu Kashmir. You will find failure of many theories. In both these pockets, many theories fail. Okay, generally we say Brahmins are fair. In South India, you would not see fair Brahmins, but they are Brahmins. You would see Shudra being not so fair black, but in Jammu you would see Shudra fair. Fail हो जाएंगी theories. India के अंदर ही. What is India? इंडियन सोसाइटी को स्टडी ऐसे नहीं होता, इंडिया नहीं होता कुछ भी, पॉकेट्स होते हैं, पॉकेट्स. ओके, नाउ if as a Shudra you try to emulate Brahmin, try to adopt his practices, try to wear sacred thread. Sacred thread, do you know? वो जो एक धागा लगाते हैं सफेद, ठीक है, टीका येलो रंग का, चोटी होती है ऊपर ऐसे, व्हाइट कलर का मार्क होता है, रेड कलर का निशान ऊपर जा रहा होता है. Sacred thread, all these things. Imagine Ashudra has adorned sacred thread, put on that tilak on his forehead, acting like Brahmin, reading Veda. How will you say that he's Shudra? पता ही नहीं चलेगा. But if Brahmins know, if Brahmins get to know, he is not one of us, he is faking, fake news. ठीक है, he is faking. He is not Brahmin. I know he is not Brahmin. ये तो अभी तक था नहीं, एकदम आज कहां से आ गया ये? अभी तक तो था नहीं है. थोड़ी बात करी संस्कृत में, पता चल गया आती नहीं संस्कृत में. बेटा कब तक झूठ बोलोगे हमसे? उसको कोड़े पढ़वाओ, इसको कोड़े, अकबर के कोर्ट में लेके जाओ इसको, ठीक है. In a society where you do not have openness, society which is not meritocratic, if you try to climb up the ladder, you will face the consequences. And the person who had to bear these consequences, according to Robert Ezra Park, one scholar which I'll talk about, Robert Park, he says these people are known as marginal men. Marginal, इधर के भी नहीं रहे, उधर के भी नहीं रहे. Shudra community would not accept him now. ब्राह्मण ने तो वैसे रिजेक्ट कर दिया. अब ये कहां जाएं? These are marginal people. And the very product known as marginal man is a product of failure of anticipatory socialization. Anticipatory socialization turned out to be dysfunctional to that person. It is not functional, turned out to be dysfunctional to that person when he tried to achieve mobility. Okay, this is what Merton is describing. Okay, so Merton has also used this term marginal man. He borrowed this term from Robert Ezra Park. Robert Park is also a scholar from Chicago School. Okay, Robert Park is one person. Robert Park and Burgess. Let me write their name. Robert Park and Burgess. In fact, Burgess is very important. Robert Park has given this term marginality. As I told you, they are those people who are conducting empirical, pragmatic studies, small scale studies. Burgess is that person who has coined the term जिसको आजकल सब यूज करते हैं, social distance, was actually coined by this man. इतना इंपॉर्टेंट आदमी है जिसको आज हम सब कैजुअली यूज करते हैं, ये टर्म इसने दिया है, social distance. And not just social distance, he has also described social distance scale. Social distance scale. It is also known as Burgess scale, social distance scale. And this social distance scale was developed to measure attitude of whites towards blacks, because at that point of time social distancing was practiced at the level of races, white maintaining distance against blacks, blacks feeling relative deprivation. Since closed society, racism is there, and therefore violence is coming out from blacks, labeled as criminals. Labeling, self-fulfilling prophecy. They are now declared as criminals. In the democratic society, we see inequality nurtured. This is what Alexis de Tocqueville says after this. Everything is connected. Since now blacks were marginalized, completely marginalized. They had lost bargaining power, discriminated against. They acted like cheap labor to industrialists. Marxism. They formed industrial reserve army. मार्क्स लग गए. ऐसे सब ऐसे सब रिलेटेड है आपस में. ठीक है. We practiced at one point of time social distancing at vertical level. Brahmin practicing social distancing against Dalits or Shudras. Shudras also practiced social distancing. Remember, it is not that Brahmins were pure, Shudras were impure. To Shudras, Brahmins were impure. Just as much impure as Brahmins as Shudras were to Brahmins, similarly Brahmins were to Shudras impure. But now if we label Brahmins as pure and Shudra as impure, that means we have internalized Brahminic ideology. We are not democratic. क्या बात है? But today we practice social distancing not at vertical level, we practice at horizontal level. From caste body or from caste Indians, we have become bio-Indians. We are now concerned more about health, physical health, not so much concerned about distance or impurity, pollution from other caste. We are concerned about purity or to prevent ourselves from COVID strain that can make us impure and put us in quarantine. So from caste body, we have become bio body. This is known as from vertical untouchability, we have gone into horizontal untouchability. Sociology. ठीक है. सब रेफरेंस ग्रुप, ये सब रेफरेंस ग्रुप में डाला है मैंने सब कुछ. Now, forms of theories. First, we have first kind of theory that we have case theories. Second kind of theory that we have is middle range theory. Third kind of theory we have is grand theory. And they are also called as low range, high range, and therefore middle range. There are three kind of theories in this world. This is what Merton is saying. तीन प्रकार की theories होती हैं दुनिया में, चाहे इकोनॉमिक्स हो, पॉलिटिकल साइंस हो, नेचुरल साइंस हो, सोशियोलॉजी हो, कुछ भी हो. ओके. तीन ही टाइप की थ्योरी होती है, चौथी होती ही नहीं है. फर्स्ट टाइप ऑफ थ्योरी इज केस थ्योरी. व्हाट इज केस थ्योरी? Imagine 10 students sitting in class. One person fell asleep. पढ़ते पढ़ते सो गया. ठीक है. Can you explain why did he fall asleep with Marxism, structural functionalism? ये सब कहाँ थोड़ा लग जाएंगे कुछ भी जबरदस्ती. वो अलग कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बने हैं. मतलब ऐसे मत किया करो यार, ये तो गलत चीज है. हर चीज में ऐसे थ्योरी नहीं लगानी चाहिए. ठीक है. वो सो गया, मार्क्सिज्म लगा सकते हैं सर. थक गया होगा, वो काम करके आया है, वो तो एलियनेशन होगा तो सो गया. ऐसे करोगे क्या यार? ऐसे तो मत करो यार. ठीक है. दिस इज केस थ्योरी. case theory, low range theory. ठीक है, this explains individual behavior. Explains individual behavior. Why did he fall asleep? Why did he or she lie to him or her? Why did he steal money? Why did he or she did whatever he or she did? In सब के लिए ये whatever theory explains their behavior are known as case theories. Okay, whatever theory explains their behavior are known as case theories. Now, what are those case theories? I'll explain. But first, let me also discuss what is the objective of other theories. Grand theory. Grand theory do not explain individuals. Grand theory explains structures. Okay. Grand theory explains structures and changes in the structures. It explains structures and changes in the structures. Structure functionalism does it. Explains all the structures, changes in the structures. What are the questions that grand theories help us in finding answer to? Case theory helped us in finding answer to why he fell asleep, why he proposed him or she proposed him, why did they break up. Okay, these things can be explained by case theories. But why economy is supporting polity? ये तो बड़े ग्रैंड सवाल हैं ये. Why and how religion is functional to the system? In what way religion is catering to dominant group in society? Why superstructure is justifying conditions present in economic structure? If you have these kind of questions, you need to get introduced to grand theories. आपको फिर स्ट्रक्चरल फंक्शनलिज्म पढ़ना पड़ेगा अगर आप समाज को ऐसे समझना चाहते हो कि ऐसे क्यों होता है. ठीक है. मिडल रेंज थ्योरीज. Middle range theories do not explain why he fell asleep or why and how religion supports economy. Middle range theory simply explains why certain groups remember this, behaved like this. Why certain groups behaved like this. For example, why we have dropout maximum amongst women child and not male child. For this you cannot explain through structural functionalism Marxism. In comparison to male child, we have dropouts amongst women child higher. For this you have to get introduced to middle range theories. Case theories cannot explain because I'm not saying why राजीव नाम का एक लड़का एंड ये क्या कहते हैं नेहा नाम की लड़की, नेहा ने ड्रॉप आउट किया, राजीव ने क्यों नहीं किया. इसके लिए नहीं है मिडल रेंज थ्योरी. गर्ल्स जो हैं इनका ड्रॉप आउट ज्यादा क्यों है, बॉयज का कम है. ग्रुप्स की बात कर रहा हूं. मिडल रेंज. When Durkheim compared groups, Catholic versus Protestant, men versus women, he was in the middle range theorization, but suddenly he said with industrialization suicide rates increase. अब यहां वो ग्रैंड पे चले गया. बीच तक वो मिडल रेंज में था. Okay, then he developed laws, generalizations, grand generalizations. So write down one point. The three different type of theories explain three different types of social realities. Three different types of social reality. Okay, explains 3 different types of social reality. Now, I'll give you examples. Grand theory, structural functionalism, Marxism, feminism, psychoanalysis by Sigmund Freud, Weber's rationalization, all these are grand theorizations. Okay. By structures and changes in the structure. To Karl Marx, base is economics. To Sigmund Freud, base is sex. Sexual base. Whatever society you see before you is the result of sex. And the need and a practice that today we prohibit or is known as or is considered as taboo. Taboo. You know, to fall in love with your mother is a taboo. You can't have sexual relation with your mother. It's a taboo. How can you think like that? You can't have sexual relation with your sister. Or you can't, as a girl, you can't have sexual relation with your brother or your father. It is a taboo. Okay. And since it is a taboo, it is prohibited. Okay. Therefore, we form alliances with people outside of our family. तभी तो आप दूसरों से बात करोगे ना, जब आप अंदर वालों के साथ रिलेशन नहीं रख सकते हो तभी आप दूसरों से बात करोगे और तभी आपका जो एम्पायर है बढ़ता जाएगा. ठीक है, कपूर्स लगेगा, फैमिली ट्री बनेगी, नहीं तो वहीं मर जाओगे 3-4 के अंदर ही. ठीक है. अच्छा, हाउ दिस टैबू was enforced, many reasons were given for this. Okay, and Sigmund Freud has discussed everything. मतलब वो सब पढ़ने की तुम्हें जरूरत नहीं है. But basically Sigmund Freud is saying the whole society is the result of this prohibition. First, we did not fall in love with this. Okay, or it was prohibited because of social customs, and that is how all other organs got developed. First तो family ही होता है. First family, and then you develop other organs. Okay, so sex is the base. Everything else is in the superstructure. Okay. Middle range theory. It explains group dynamics. Group dynamics. For example, why unemployment among women is higher than men? If we have a question like this, middle range theory, you will have to formulate. Why girls have higher qualification in education in comparison to men or male? Middle range theory will help you. ऐसा इसमें मार्क्सिज्म फेमिनिज्म नहीं लगता है. लगेगा उधर भी लगेगा, ठीक है, बट वो ग्रैंड थ्योराइजेशन होएगा. फिर ये ध्यान रखना कि भटक भी सकते हो और फोर्सफुली यूज करना पड़ेगा कुछ कॉन्सेप्ट को. ठीक है, वो जिसे कहते हैं बुलजाई, वो नहीं रहेगा. मिडल रेंज थ्योरी. मिडल रेंज थ्योरी का मीनिंग क्या है और कौन सी है वो थ्योरीज जिसको मिडल रेंज बोलते हैं? रिलेटिव डेप्रिवेशन इज अ मिडल रेंज थ्योरी. Okay, relative deprivation is a middle range theory. Now remember, middle range theory is not a theory. It is a way to practice theory. It is a way to formulate theories. You formulate theories, you make theories to explain group behavior. Therefore, you have to explain or you have to develop concepts through which you can explain group behavior. You cannot be explaining or developing concepts to explain societal structures. If you are developing such theories, you are falling in a grand narrative construct. But as an empirical sociologist, we have to have restraint. We should develop concepts that can help us understand behavior amongst groups. Why group is like this. Reference group behavior is a middle range theory. Relative deprivation is a middle range theory. Matthew effect, comparative advantage, is a middle range theory. Now, one last point. Case theories. And also remember, all the grand theories are non-testable. Can you test any grand theory? एक को भी टेस्ट नहीं कर पाओगे. Non-testable. There is no instrument available to see revolution कब आएगा. There is no instrument available to see कि बाकी में religion is functional to the system. ऐसा कोई मीटर नहीं है कि 90% functional, 80% नहीं है. ऐसा कुछ है नहीं. Non-testable theories. That means highly abstract. Abstraction में भी सबसे ऊपर है. Non-testable है तो high abstraction. High abstraction, non-testable. These theories are why did I fall asleep? Whatever that individual is doing. Those things are testable. You can test. एक इंडिविजुअल को आपने ये इसने क्योंकि वो टेस्ट कर सकते हो आप आराम से. उससे पूछ लो आप क्यों किया तुमने, बताओ. टेस्ट कर लिया. अब रिलीजन से पूछ लोगे, रिलीजन से बात कर लोगे कि सिस्टम को कैसे मेंटेन किया, कर भी रहे हो या नहीं. नॉन टेस्टेबल. सो इट इज टेस्टेबल. लो एब्स्ट्रैक्शन है ही नहीं. एब्स्ट्रैक्शन तो है ही नहीं. जीरो एब्स्ट्रैक्शन ऑलमोस्ट. ओके. मिडल रेंज थ्योरी are testable. Testable. You can test. Do you remember I gave you one question in paper 1, test 1. Unemployment and crime rate related to each other. That was what? That was not a grand theory. It was middle range theory. वो मिडल रेंज थ्योरी था जो मैंने तुमसे पूछा था. ओके. एंड आई शोड यू दैट इट इज टेस्टेबल. टेस्ट कर सकते हैं हम उसको. मिडल रेंज थ्योरी की यही खासियत होती है. मार्क्सिज्म को टेस्ट नहीं कर सकता मैं. ओके. मार्क्सिज्म पर से आई कैन नॉट टेस्ट. स्ट्रक्चरल फंक्शनिज्म पर से आई कैन नॉट टेस्ट. बट दीज थ्योरीज आई कैन टेस्ट. ओके. सो विद दिस we are done with Merton. Only one topic is left: manifest and latent, and a critique to Talcott Parsons, which I'll cover tomorrow. And I'll also finish tomorrow Mead. Mead भी कल खत्म कर देंगे. 15 minutes maximum. So if you have any question, you can ask me. Is Egypt studied by any? हाँ बिल्कुल. इजिप्ट जाना है क्या तुमको? अच्छी जगह है काफी. इजिप्ट काफी अच्छा जगह है. समीर अमीन इज एन इजिप्शियन मार्क्सिस्ट. समीर अमीन, SAMIRAMIN. Unequal development, uneven development is a theory given by Samir Amin. Okay. But not so many people are popular from Egypt in sociology at least. Samir Amin is one popular name. Okay. Recently he died in 2017. He died. Sir, if socialization is different for different individuals, how can culturally defined goals be equally distributed? हाँ, ये critique है. This is a critique to Merton. I will explain. This is something I'll explain when I'll teach you critique to Merton. That is tomorrow itself. Culturally defined goals are also not equally distributed. Okay. There are many communities to whom material need is not a goal. Okay. It is prohibited for them. And when I'll teach you critique to Merton's deviance theory, that is actually more interesting than deviance theory itself. Merton says simply, whosoever did not or could not have the legitimate means because of race, caste, class, sex, sexuality, because of these social locations, if you could not have legitimate means to acquire the goals, you will turn into criminal activities to get the goals. बट क्या क्रिमिनल बनना आसान है? ये मर्टन नहीं बता रहा. पता है क्रिमिनल बनना ज्यादा मुश्किल है आईएएस बनने से. आईएएस बनना वर्ल्ड का टफेस्ट कंपटीशन होगा लेजिटिमेट वर्ल्ड में, बट इलेजिटिमेट वर्ल्ड में क्रिमिनल बनना टॉप का सबसे टफ काम है. देयर इज हायरार्की इन क्राइम एज वेल. दाऊद इब्राहिम ऐसे थोड़ा ना पॉपुलर है. हर कोई दाऊद इब्राहिम नहीं बन सकता. ठीक है. इन क्राइम ऑल्सो वी हैव वर्क प्रोफाइल, वर्क एक्सपीरियंस. कितने सालों से मार रहे हो, कितने मर्डर किए, रिज्यूमे होता है तुम्हारा. एक हायरार्की बनती है. अभी इसने कल ही किया मर्डर, इसको बिठाओ, थोड़ा कोल्ड ड्रिंक वोल्ड ड्रिंक खिलाओ, इसको चिकन विकन खिलाओ, इसको थोड़ा ठीक करो, इसको सिखाओ कैसे चाकू चलाते हैं. तुमको भी टाइम लगेगा, तो सीख जाओगे. इट विल टेक यू 3-4 years. ओके. हार्डवर्क करो. देखो इस लाइन में हार्डवर्क जो करता है उसी का नाम है. हमारे बॉस को देखो, 1010 मर्डर किए हैं विद इन 1 week, इसलिए हायरार्की में सबसे ऊपर. सो उस वर्ल्ड में जाना भी आसान काम नहीं है. इसकी चीज, इस बात को मर्टन एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर रहा. वी हैव लेजिटिमेट अपॉर्चुनिटी स्ट्रक्चर्स इन सोसाइटी. वी मे नॉट हैव लेजिटिमेट मीन्स, but then we have illegitimate opportunity structure as well, which Merton is not discussing and is discussed by Cloward and Olin, criminologist. वो बताऊंगा मैं, कल बताऊंगा. How class structure is ritualist. Class structure is ritualist. Class structure मैंने कब बोला? अच्छा कास्ट, हाँ कास्ट लिखा है तुमने. कास्ट स्ट्रक्चर तो रिचुअलिज्म है ना. एक बात बताओ, व्हाट इज रिचुअलिज्म? गोल से कुछ मतलब नहीं, मीन्स. जब वेबर, when Weber is describing Hindus, this is how he describe Hindu as. इनकी वो है ही नहीं काबिलियत इनके अंदर कैपिटलिज्म की. क्या कैपिटलिज्म डेवलप करेंगे? प्रोटेस्टेंट्स में जो है काबिलियत, ऐसे हिंदूज में है. हिंदूज आर इंडियन कैथोलिक्स. दे डू नॉट हैव दोस गोल्स, मटेरियल गोल्स. मटेरियल गोल्स को हम कहाँ मानते हैं? मोह माया बोलते हैं, मोह माया. ये सब मोह माया है, इसमें कुछ नहीं रखा. ये रिचुअलिज्म ही तो है. अपना काम पे कर्म, कर्म करो, फल की चिंता करो ही मत. ये हमारे वर्च्यूज हैं. फल की चिंता क्यों ना करें भाई? अरे कब तक कर्म करेंगे? अटेम्प्ट निकल गए सारे, कर्म ही करते जाएंगे क्या? फल भी तो देखना है. बट हमारी वैल्यूज ऐसी, कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो. हाउ लो ग्रेड ब्यूरोक्रेट्स आर रिचुअलिस्ट. लो ग्रेड ब्यूरोक्रेट्स जो होते हैं, लो ग्रेड का मतलब क्या है पहले तो मैं बताता हूँ. लो ग्रेड की जब मैं बात कर रहा हूँ ना, ये लतीफ चौधरी की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. ठीक है, लतीफ चौधरी. लतीफ चौधरी रेंट सीकर ब्यूरोक्रेट्स को लो ग्रेड ब्यूरोक्रेट बोलता है. In fact, Merton has also described low grade bureaucrats because he has studied bureaucratic personalities. The low grade bureaucrats, if you see, they are those people who are largely innovators because they are rent seekers. हर चीज को करने के लिए पैसा उनको चाहिए होता है. ठीक है, गोल पूरा करना है, ठीक है, इलेजिटिमेट मीन से पूरा करेंगे. But low grade bureaucrats also fall under category of ritualism. Because what happens is, as a low grade bureaucrat, he is concerned every day about means. Means in the sense, as there are two types of low grade bureaucrats. Okay, one are highly indulged in corruption every time, not concerned about means at all, only concerned about ends. Second, those who are concerned about means, not concerned about ends, which Merton says is a dysfunction of bureaucracy. Means oriented bureaucrat, red tapeism yahi se aata hai. You are following rules, not concerned about whether following rules are fulfilling the goals as well of the public. आपके लिए rules end बन गए अपने आप में, ठीक है? Then it turns into ritualism in that case. Okay. See, sex work, prostitution, beggary. The people who resort to begging, the people who resort to sex work, why do they resort to begging or sex work? Because they could not get enough opportunity to study. इसमें उनकी गलती है? उनकी गलती है? सोशियोलॉजी कभी नहीं बोलेगा किसी इंडिविजुअल की गलती होती ही नहीं है. सोशियोलॉजी में इंडिविजुअल की गलतियां होती नहीं है, क्योंकि जब हम बोलने लग जाए गलती है उनकी, तो हम तो कॉमन आदमी हो गए. हमें और कॉमन आदमी में फर्क क्या रह गया? ये तो कॉमन मैन बोलेगा उनकी गलती है, सब कुछ पढ़ के सारी किताबें दी थी उनको, पढ़ा नहीं उन्होंने, उनकी गलती है. ये कॉमन आदमी ऐसे बोलेगा. सोशियोलॉजिस्ट कभी ऐसे नहीं बोलते. सोशियोलॉजिस्ट would always talk about structures. That girl resorting to sex work is the result of mismatch between culturally defined goal and legitimate means. Okay, she being person born to lower class family could not get enough education. Her father being auto rickshaw driver could not afford to get her educated. Okay, and therefore she resorted to work that is seen as illegitimate, because at the end of the day she had to make money as well, which she has accepted. Culturally defined goal, make money. Okay, और काम तो काम होता है, काम कोई छोटा बड़ा नहीं होता, काम इज काम. Okay, for you it may be legitimate, to her it is legitimate, इसमें कोई बुरी बात नहीं है. कास्ट बॉडी, बायो बॉडी, वो तो छोड़ दो, वो तो मैंने पेपर 2 की बात कर दी बीच में. इट इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट गिवन बाय बद्री प्रसाद, एक सोशियोलॉजिस्ट हैं इंडिया के, बद्री नारायण बेसिकली. ओके, वो सब अभी छोड़ो, वो तो मैंने तुम्हें एग्जांपल दिया है, वो उसको यूज कर सकते हो तुम बेसिकली. सर बट देयर आर मेनी हाईली एजुकेटेड इंडिविजुअल्स हु आर एस्कॉर्ट्स. हाँ है ना, बिल्कुल है. तो वो क्या कर रहे हैं, और मर्टन उसको किस कैटेगरी में डालेगा? टू मर्टन दोस पीपल आर इनोवेटर्स. दे डिड एवरीथिंग, पूरा पढ़ाई करी, सब कुछ करी, मेहनत करी, उसके बाद भी दे कुड नॉट गेट मनी, गोल, द रियल गोल विच दे हैव एस्टैब्लिश्ड फॉर देमसेल्व्स. ओके, एंड दैट इज व्हाई उन्होंने लात मार दी लेजिटिमेट मीन्स को. ठीक है, फोन लगाया दोस्तों को और बोला अपना एक क्लब खोलते हैं, स्टार्टअप करते हैं, उसमें ये काम करेंगे. इनोवेशन, गोल एक्सेप्टेबल, नो मोर मीन्स. बहुत मेहनत कर ली, बहुत शरीफ बन के रह लिया, ऑनेस्टी बहुत हो गई, ऑनेस्टी का कोई इज्जत नहीं है. ठीक है, इनोवेटर्स हैं वो. Nobody is born innovator, remember this. Nobody is born conformist, nobody is born ritualist, nobody is born literatist, nobody is born rebellion. गांधी का मकसद नहीं था ऐसे करना, हिप्पीज का मकसद नहीं था शुरू से ही कि गोवा के बीच में आएंगे हम, ठीक है। सोसाइटीज ऐसा करवाती है उनको। डू यू रियली थिंक यू आर बॉर्न एज रिट्रीटिस्ट? द स्ट्रक्चर्स ऑफ सोसाइटी shape them every day in their everyday life. They are the products of society. It is the strain which they felt because of the pressure to meet the defined goals they could not meet, and that is why they turned into this. It is not their fault. It is not personal trouble, it is public issue. If it was personal trouble, it should have been limited to one or two, but if it is seen in large scale in every society, it is a public issue. ठीक है, चलो, tomorrow we'll complete theories.